Hey guys, it's your girl, Pearl Van D, here with another video, and I'm so glad you came back. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, how you doing? You doing all right? You ready for this? Tonight will be my second installment and my review of the second episode of The Cult of the Family on the Starz Network. This goes a little bit more in depth into what happened to the children after they were rescued, as well as a little bit deeper into Anne Hamilton Byrne. Ding, 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 ding. Got it right this time. Into her life and how she did what she did. Before we do, guess what time it is? It is time for the IPA of the day, my featured IPA of the day. The IPA of the day. My IPA that I chose for this episode is VooDoo Ranger. Look at that can goodness. Just goodness on the can. It makes me want to drink it. IPAs that are absolutely delicious, and every single skeleton on the can has a different outfit, and I love it so much. It's one of my top 10 favorite IPAs. I've been drinking already, so I'm going to pour a little more. Let's get into this. I mean, not just the IPA, this story.
This is a warning. If you are sensitive or triggered by any talk of abuse, child abuse, and manipulation, this is not the video for you. You have been warned.
This one starts off exactly where we left off on the last one, and this one is called The Question of Identity. It starts off with the same girl. She's jumped out of the window, she's gone to the neighbors. She said, "Please help me." The cops come, and that's where it picks up. Not only did she get the cops to come, but she went back with the cops to go and help get the kids out of the house. That these kids, they would not be able to handle weird people coming into the house trying to rescue them, because they've been taught their whole lives that by Anne and the aunties and uncles that everybody wants to hurt you. Everybody wants to do you harm. Took them to the hospital, and everyone was talking about how the children acted like they had just gotten out of prison, which in all actuality they had. The kids couldn't believe they could eat whatever they wanted to, they could wear whatever clothes they wanted to, they could talk to each other. It was just a whole big transformation in their life. My man's back. Lex Demand. My man. Lex Demand. I'm not sure if it's Demand or Demand, but I love him. His first name is Lexi, so we're going to refer to him as Sexy Lexi because he gets the job done. And then he went about the task of finding out who these children parents were. Like, they deserve to know because they have been told their whole lives that Anne and Bill were their parents. Ugh. I gotta drink on that. Started finding out more about adoptions and how adoptions were handled in Australia at that time. And and it's not really unnatural for that to happen here in the States as well, where a child is conceived out of wedlock, and instead of bring shame to the family, a lot of single mothers would hide. They'd go into hiding. They would leave and go stay with their cousins in Vermont for 8.5 months, 9 months, or however long it took for them to have the baby. And then all of a sudden, boom, Susan's back. No baby to see here. And so a lot of this would happen when it came to the family as well, because they knew doctors, they knew nurses, and a lot of these women were told, there's no way you can take care of this baby. There's no way. You're not adequate enough to take care of a child. You need to give him or her to someone that will love them and take care of them, not knowing that once that happened, you couldn't go back on your word and want your baby. And little did you know that you were just sending your child to be abused in all types of ways and also given drugs. So there's that. One of the survivors, her name is Sarah. She mentioned that once she found out who her mom was, her mother had her, and immediately after giving birth, she was sedated, heavily sedated. A sack was put over her head, and then her daughter was taken. Another instance where another mom tried 3 separate times during the time that you could contest an adoption, and it was denied all 3 times. So many families and so many people ripped apart. Just sad. Births ended with a cry of the baby and a door slam, and that would be the nurse taking the baby away. Now, on a lighter note, I just want to know who designed the nurses' hats in Australia, because if I were giving birth in that hospital, I'm not giving my baby, I'm not let, if you don't get out of here with those hats on, those are the worst hats. Now back to what we were talking about. I had to get that out. I have another person that needs to be honored through this whole thing. Her name is Marie Moore. I love her. She takes nothing either. She was an investigative journalist in Australia at the time when this was going on. Bad ass. A badass. Marie Moore took a deep interest in these children and this whole episode. She found out that Dr. McKay, now, if you listen to my last episode, Dr. McKay was the doctor from New Haven that just so happened to be working along with Anne in recruiting people for the cult. So he adopted a child, a son, and handed it over to Anne. Marie Moore questioned him in the parking lot of the hospital. She walked up to him and asked him, "Hey, so I noticed that you've given your child to Anne Hamilton. Are you aware of the treatment of these children? Are you aware of what's going on out there?" I'm just going to tell you, it looked like fight night, because McKay said, he did. She only wanted to know what was going on. Why were all these people giving their kids to Anne? Was he aware what was going on the compound? And he was having none of it. Now we get into Anne's background. What's the tea? Tell me what's the tea. What's the tea? Tell me what's the tea. They talked to some of the kids to ask if they were aware of anything about Anne's background or her growing up. And what she had told the kids was that came from royalty. She had a castle. She was an opera singer. None of which were true at all. Her father was a railway worker, and her mom was committed to an insane asylum. Well, in those days they did call it an insane asylum, so don't come for me. Okay? A mental institution. That's where her mom was when she was growing up. When she was the oldest of 7 children. She was married once before to a man named Lionel Harris in 1941. And she had a baby. She had a little girl named Judith in 1943. Her husband was in the military, and he quit the military because he felt that Anne was unstable and that she was not mistreating the daughter, but her actions were very weird toward the daughter. So he was concerned. So he quit the military and moved the whole family. He became a car salesman, and they moved to Sydney in 1955. And then, bam, he was killed in a car accident out of the blue. In the paper, they said that Anne and her husband were going through the process of adopting a son because she wanted a bigger family. They did not allow single women to adopt children on their own. So she could not adopt the son. And apparently he was supposed to meet the son that day or something. It's just really weird. Another thing that's weird, they never mention Judith anymore. Like, it's like Judith just evaporated into thin air. Nobody ever brings Judith up again. Ever. Ever. I want to know where Judith is. Where is Judith? What happened to Judith? Judith.
Bam, 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 bam. Plastic surgery alert. Of course, Anne Hamilton Byrne had to undergo plastic surgery. As a matter of fact, extensive plastic surgery to her face, as you can see in these pictures. The transformation. She did this right after her husband died and her daughter mysteriously disappeared. And this was the result. I had to let you know this. All right, back to regular scheduled programming.
Now move forward in time to after she had after she gotten with Bill and she's actively started the cult. She had custom maternity clothes made for herself by this woman. And when they questioned everyone, they asked the woman that was making the maternity clothes and they asked her, was she ever pregnant? And she was like, I don't know. I never felt her belly. She wasn't pregnant. She wasn't pregnant. But they found out in investigating that she had already had a hysterectomy years before. So there's no way any of these children could have been hers. She told people that she'd had triplets, that 8 of the kids were hers. No, stop it. Now cut to Peter Spence. Peter Spence was a former senior detective. So many of these officers, police officers, reporters got so attached to this story that they took some of these kids in and kept them for years. Like, that's how involved people became with this story. They found out that the aunties and uncles that were taking care of all of the children might have been their mom, might have been their dad, but they had no idea. It's twisted. It's very twisted. At this point, the documentary or this episode gets into a lot of individual abuse stories. And I just feel like that is up to you. Not only, I don't want to go against YouTube's guidelines because I'd like to stay up here and continue making videos because I like doing this. There's a lot of abuse that goes on and they go into a lot of individual stories. And I feel like that is completely up to you if you would like to go deeper and see those things and hear those things. But I don't feel comfortable giving that information to you. And like I said, I like YouTube. So yeah, I'm going to balls in your court. Marie Moore, the investigative reporter, she took some of the kids that were staying with her because she had a few that moved in with her. So she took them back and did like a little report on them touring and going through where they used to live. And it was kind of sad to see because like they were going through some of the houses and they were talking about when they remember getting in trouble here or getting in trouble for doing this or and but the thing is, you can tell that they were out from under bondage because their faces looked different. They looked a little bit more lifted. I was just happy that they were out. But there's more. There's more. Of course. We're dealing with Anne. So now the adults, Anne left, right? Nobody knew where she was. I think she had a few children still with her, but she would send recordings back. Of course she would. Back to her followers to give them encouragement and to continue to let them know that she's still Jesus Christ and that all these other people are horrible, bad people, and she's the best. She's Anne. As time went on, more and more of these members getting hauled to jail, getting hauled to prison for finance stuff, for the children. It was said that Anne would suck any amount of money she could out of anyone. And she targeted people to be in her cult that had money. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? So she had all these people that were rich, well, so that she could take money, take money. Anne was worth $50 million. Yes, she was. She bought like several properties. I think there were five total that she bought. One was in the Catskills in New York. In New York. This is where she met the guru Swami Tandu. I hope I'm saying this right. Swami Muktandu. Muktanda. Muktanandu. Nah, Muktananda. Swami Muktananda. She met him. And then we speak to, honey, I like this woman. I really like this woman though. Joan Rada Bridges. And they did an interview with her. And she was just talking about her first impressions of Anne Hamilton Byrne. And she was like, she noticed that she was hanging around Swami. I'm just gonna say Swami. Sorry, Swami. Um, but that she noticed her hanging around and she said that it was weird because you would see her and then you'd see her with about five or six kids that were all dressed the same, all bleach blonde hair. And she said it was really, really weird. But also, what she noticed was that Anne was trying to take Swami's followers. She was jealous. She was very jealous of Swami. And she didn't understand why so many people were following Swami and not following her. Because, of course, she's Jesus Christ. It was also rumored that Anne was following Swami because it was known that he practiced black magic and she wanted to learn black magic. Go figure. Why wouldn't you? Because that's what Jesus would do. Really, Anne? With the really, Anne? She figured out to write down people's names on a piece of paper and then put them in ice cubes. And she would tell people that if she put your name in that ice cube and freeze it, that you would become deathly ill and you could not become well unless she healed you. I need more beer. Now, at this point, she was also doing things that was very similar to what happened in Nexium with the Collateral. So, what she was doing is she would get people high on LSD or psilocybin, and she would ask them questions about their sexual history, past, get them to say things about their lives, things that they've done, and she would hold it over their head and she would use it as collateral, and in essence, so that would keep them, like so that they wouldn't leave her because she had this thing holding over their head. So it was basically collateral, just like Nexium. Peter Spence, the former senior detective sergeant, he put together a full detailed report. He put everything in there: forgery, theft, administering drugs to children. It was rejected. He said it never, he said he believed it never even left his floor. Like it did not get to his supervisors or anyone. That's how far this woman's reach was. That's how many people she had touched with her spider web. It's ridiculous. Cut to Mary Moore. She finds Anne and Bill in Hawaii, chilling. They are on the run, and she runs up on them savage style. and asked them straight up, what's going on?
It's the hell for me.
They deny everything, everything. But the funniest thing, there's always something funny with this woman, always one little thing funny. The funniest thing is Marie Moore walks up and she goes, Anne, do you think you have spiritual powers? Anne looks at her, she stops and she goes, I don't think I have powers. Back in Australia, things are not looking so good with the task force. People are dropping out. They're saying that it's too much, too close to home. They can no longer do this thing. It's consuming too much of their lives. So, information is leaked to Robert McClellan, the former opposition minister for the police in Parliament. He goes to Parliament and he gives out all the information that was given to him confidentially. He's given this information. He goes and says this to Parliament and asks for more resources for the task force to bring these people down. And the fact that this has gone on for so long and it affected so many children and it affected so many lives, Parliament was embarrassed. So they ultimately said, okay, start giving the money out, right? So they could take it down. Once this was happening and all the trials were going on, one of the kids, so brainwashed, named Roland, he started really standing up for Anne and Bill. He said that those were his parents. No matter what, he was standing up for them. And he actually threatened the lives of members of Parliament. And they took him in, questioned him. He was like a little headstrong little soldier for Anne and Bill, and they were so proud of him. He didn't know any better. He didn't know any better. That had been his life forever. So he was going to do this. He was going to be that person for them. Okay. So we come to the end. And at the end, in closing, my man, Sexy Lexi, comes up and he says, hey, we've got all this money now from Parliament. We're setting up a plan of attack. We're bringing these mothers down. Bring them down. That's how it ends. So we can only look for the best to happen in part 3. I'm so excited. I'm excited to see it because this will be my time to see it and I'll be bringing it to you. Hopefully, you want to check this documentary series out. It's actually pretty cool. I will be bringing you the 3rd installment, my 3rd episode, their 3rd episode. I'll be reviewing it and bringing it to you next week. Now, if you have any movies, documentaries, TV shows that you want me to review so I could throw my pearl spin on it, just let me know, please, in the comment section below, and I will get on that as soon as I can because I've got a couple in store. A couple in store for y'all. So, love you. Don't let anybody hurt you. Don't hurt nobody. And keep your sunshine bubbles intact. I love you. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.